And there's a little pansy blooming in there. And I've put some more blooms along the edge. I'm going to cover the landscape fabric with mulch. So, oh, also I hung a couple things there, so the birds might like that. And anyway, I put some mint there and some more dianthus along here because most of my flowers, you can see the nasturtiums there. I have a couple different kinds in here. You can see that one's yellow and green variegated leaf, and that's Tip Top Alaska, whereas this one here is Jewel Mix. It's just green. So I actually like those Tip Top Alaskas. I know that it's nice to have the reddish flowers, but boy, they perform, those Tip Top Alaskas. So anyway, this is what I've been doing for Canada Day, and I I could plant some more, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna go back to Superstore and see if what I can get. Cause see, I have some extra, but not enough to do another row in the what do you call it? In the boulevard. And I do have lots of herbs, but I don't know that I want to plant herbs right along the sidewalk. I think I wouldn't want to eat the herbs. So anyway, there's James's dinner for today. It looks like he's going to talk about music and Swedish English. So go ahead, James. It's all you today.
Well, mention it. Okay, Swedish English, not English Swedish. It's a dictionary, bilingual, put together by a couple. The last name Petty. It's not like Tom Petty or something like that. Spoiler alert, I haven't actually finished it. I've gone halfway through it, and it's the part that's important for me. No, I'm the kind of kid that would read encyclopedias when I was a kid. I'm the kind of guy that reads. I guess I'm still a kid now. But now I read encyclopedias and more like dictionaries. And so this is not, of course, the heftiest Swedish English dictionary you could get, but it's fairly substantial. It's, I think, a little over 300, no, it's roughly 350 pages, the Swedish to English part. I find that easier to do than to go from English to Swedish. And so eventually I'll go through this part, but it's not high priority. I should be able to, after going through this once, the Swedish English, be able to read in Swedish, at least. Maybe not Swedish literature so much, but usually when you're reading literature, unless you're reading Ernest Hemingway, or something of that, or even worse, it might be, who is that idiot who wrote it? This is the Rose of Rose. Yeah, Gertrude Stein. Or literature in the form of poetry. You wouldn't be challenging your vocabulary very much if you're reading William Carlos Williams or any of his acolytes. They still exist. I don't know if they're being created anew. There were several people of my generation coming through the University of Lethbridge who were very much head up on a professor who was even more head up on William Carlos Williams. And that guy sadly took over the creative writing classes there. They had two, as I recall, maybe a third and fourth year course, second and third, can't remember. Could hardly care. But yeah, they were very much enthused with that. Anyway, if you're going to read the usual literature, Umberto Eco, in the original Italian, you're going to need a fairly substantial vocabulary if you're going to read Marcel Proust, maybe more than a substantial, in the original French, maybe more than a substantial vocabulary. If you're going to read James Joyce in the original English, yeah, and I'm not talking about Finnegan's Wake, which is maybe in, I don't know, how many dozen languages, puns. It could be 5,000 languages, stuff like that, maybe even more. So what I've done here is I've gone through it all. The majority of the pages, actually, I've gone through and tried to note down cognates to Swedish, in English, and in German, and been able to even throw in an occasional Dutch cognate. So cognates are related words. English and Swedish and German and Dutch are all counted as Germanic languages. It's not German, strictly speaking, but Germanic, related to German. And an example, one of my favorite cognates in English is steer. In German it's Stier, spelled differently, S-T-I-E-R, as I recall, but in English, steer has kind of got, so originally it was the same word. I don't know which is closer. It's probably, I'd say the S was probably closer to the original, but it's probably cognate with the Spanish toro. It's just the S got dropped off. You don't have to believe me. Spanish Indo-European language, just like English. But yeah, like when you look at Celtic and other Indo-European language, a lot of things that have had in something like the Proto-Indo-European an S at the beginning, the S has just got dropped off, deleted or whatever, just got dropped off over the course of Lord knows how many centuries. Like I'm fairly sure the Indo-Europeans were together in one place more than 10,000 years ago, and they started spreading after that. 10,000 years ago. More than 10,000 years ago. I don't know if I agree with linguistics, but I've looked at the James Fraser's work on the Golden Bough in abbreviated form, not this multi-volume form. And I would guess that the Indo-Europeans, their mythology about the Pleiades, about its mistletoe, it's really Pleiades, goes back 10,000 years ago, and they all seem to share. You find it in the Norse myth. I wouldn't call them sagas, really. So, now, I've done more than half of the stuff, so I've gone through it once, this half of the book, but more than half of those pages I've actually put in the cognates. I started out, I really didn't, I only put the ones that were more interesting, I suspect. Well, this one I didn't even, German, it's not really a cognate, it's just a different form, acetone. I think they'd spell with a Z instead of a C. I didn't put that in, but like I say, I'm not saying that I've put in the cognates or whatever, or equivalents for everything, but more than half of the pages, and really more than half the entries. So that's not just like buzzing through something like in a day or whatever. And I'd go through maybe 10 pages a day at best. It's like with notes, extensive notes for most of it. Do I recommend it? I don't know. What can you handle? But I am going to tell you that if you're going to go around strutting around, there's a few people out there, more than too many, frankly, strutting around thinking that they know this and that and acting as though they do. I don't care what people think, but when they start acting as though they know everything, then I start making invidious comparison. Invidious mainly might be something almost like inimical, although inimicals come to mean something a little bit different, but I am going to, it's invidious basically with what an enemy does. If you go around pretending that you know more than I do about some particular thing, where I put the work in, you don't know it anywhere near to the level that I do, and that's almost very least, then I'm going to make it, I reserve the right to make invidious comparisons. Usually I swallow my tongue and teeth after in order to try to not to say something, but if the person's really obnoxious, I reserve the right to go to town on it. I do it very rarely, but ever so occasionally. Some people just they don't ask for it, they beg for it. That's one of the games that you can play when you're learning languages. They say, what I've said for a long time now is language is life. But what they say, really, acquiring a language is acquiring a vocabulary. You can acquire the basic grammar in basically 2 semesters of university instruction, not so much 2 semesters of high school. And it's 2 semesters of university instruction is the equivalent, I guess most places, definitely the University of Lethbridge, of getting through grade 12 high school. But I've seen kids who graduated high school, whatever, like Japanese, and you'll see them have to start off right at introductory Japanese. They're theoretically supposed to be qualified for, what is it, the University of Lethbridge, 2000 maybe? But they get busted right down. They have to write tests. And the reason is high school instruction, maybe, and what is it? Everything is cut out to be high school instruction in languages. So, like I say, long-term project, go through the English. It's harder to do it that way because you'll get the English entry, and then there'll be several meanings in the Swedish, or sometimes there'll be a phrase to explain. A little bit tougher. Okay, now to some music. I rated these, put these in order of my preference. I'm going to do it in reverse order. I kind of gave a review the other day, I think, when we were on the road. We're at Dinosaur Provincial Park here in Alberta. It's just stunning how you two kind of, their career, looking from your point of view, they went like this. First 3-4 albums are not very good. At his more, it went like this. And then around 85, 86, they hit a peak. And 85, 86, they might have been the best in the pop world. And then it's just been a huge drop-off, geometric. And then it's just kind of been, I think it's actually might be worse than the 3 or 4 albums. Just mediocrity. I don't know what happened. Did Bono's head get fat along with the rest of his body? I understand. I am not the kind of person who believes in taking it easy on people who are overweight. People's brains don't function properly, generally, if they're overweight. I don't know why it is. Is it a correlation? They're physically inactive generally, and they just don't have blood pumping through their brains fast enough for proper brain functioning? Or does the fat slow them down? I'm not sure what it is, but like fat kills. I had a relative die recently, developed gout first, became cranky. The meds he took for whatever, I think it was for gout, made him cranky too. Hard to put up with, hard to get along with. Then he should have known, the doctor should have been telling him, he should have been reading or something like that. Gout is a possible indication for later development of diabetes, developed diabetes. Then, so this all had to do with eating too much, too rich food, eating badly, and not getting enough physical exercise. Then he developed cancer. And they yarded the cancer out, gave him gave him surgery, gave him chemo and radiation, and then he was in hospital for weeks and weeks. I think it was months on end, trying to recover from the surgery. People can lose a leg if they get too bad of a wound in their leg if they've got diabetes. I know a person that happened to. I don't know, was it both legs eventually? He was confined to a wheelchair. It's miserable. You know, like, I could go along and say, oh, it's an aesthetic kind of thing, as to where it's not an aesthetic thing. It's an ethical thing. Nature does not like people being overweight. It kills them. It's not an aesthetic thing. The reason why we make it an aesthetic thing is because we know people who are overweight tend to be a drag on other people. And so we attach aesthetics to it. The aesthetics, that's shouldn't be a consideration. The consideration is, are these people going to be a drag to themselves, and more importantly, other people? The way I put it, and I'm going to continue putting it, it's okay to have problems, but don't visit them on other people. When you've got a public health care system and you're getting diabetes, you are a burden on everyone else. And that's not fair to everyone else. It's like if you're living it's a little bit like when you're living on the edge in a hunter-gatherer kind of society. If you're overweight and can't get around and stuff like that, you start to be a burden on other people. I don't think they should expose you or something like that, but yeah. You don't have a right to go abusing your health, and then same sort of thing with cigarette smoking or using dope or whatever. You don't have a right to impose on everyone else. Oh, like I have a right to be revived from a fentanyl overdose. You don't. Now, in a kind, gentle society, you extend that to them. But people shouldn't be told, oh, you have a right. You don't have a right. You don't have a right to go around getting diabetes, adult onset. I'm not talking about the sort of stuff that people inherit. You don't have a right to go imposing on society. Now, a kind, gentle society takes care of people like that, but it should be understood that they don't deserve it. Okay, Bruce Springsteen. His career has followed I think a more impressive kind of curve, looking at it from your point of view. I mean, first album, it really wasn't him. They were trying to make, with keyboards of all things, make kind of like a Bob Dylan folk hero out of him. It just wasn't him. The second album, horribly produced, and kind of all over the map. There's some not very good songs on it, but there's like Kitty's Back in Town. But there's some great songs in there. Rosalita, and at least a couple of others. They're quite long, so there are not many songs on that album. And then Born to Run, which many would consider his best, is actually maybe not as good as his second album, but it's pretty good. Again, the production's not that fantastic. What can you say? So yeah, fourth album, had what I think was a leftover from the Born to Run sessions. What the hey is that song called? It has many different parts to it, and very short, and works its way up through to something like a climax and then a denouement. Well, not much of a denouement, it just ends tonight, and then it stops. Excitement. Bruce Springsteen should have been about excitement, and then he kind of, I think, burned out or something like that. Apparently, according to his not admission, because no one grilled him about it, but he volunteered the information in his autobiography that he is bipolar. He used to be called a manic depressive, and sometimes looks like that kind of burnout. I think it happened to Pete Townsend again in his autobiography. He volunteered that. I don't think he admitted it. He volunteered it. He's had, a lot of people look at the lyrics and they think, oh, Nebraska's awesome. It's got some things with good lyrics. But Bruce Springsteen was born to, guess what? Rock. And not to do Bob Dylan stuff, not to do acoustic stuff. He was born to rock. And I've seen him live. Pretty darn good act. That was back in 1984 when he was doing his Born to Run, Born in the USA tour. It just went on, and he basically held your interest. But ever since then, it's just been kind of limping along, doing stuff with, like pick up the pace, Bruce. Like in things like, Candy's Room was the one I was thinking of. Candy's Room, he starts off soft and then it works up to a climax and then quick denouement. Like Born to Run. It's basically start out with the drums and away it goes. I mean, he's really running when he does that. You can imagine being on a motorbike. I've been on a motorbike maybe 2 times in my life. Someone else is driving, and that's more than enough for me, but you can kind of imagine. Even something like Thunder Road, it starts out softly. It's, I think, basically, I'd say piano driven, but the end, it's when he finishes doing the lyric, he works up to a psychological climax, and then I think they're working hemiola on it. Ordinarily, hemiola doesn't work for me, but boy, does it work on the fade out. Stunning stuff. That's off the Born to Run album. It's probably too late now. I mean, he's 5 years older than me. That'd make him 76 sometime this year. And but what I'd say to people is, you're never too old to learn. My parents weren't really, like intellectuals or anything like that. They're both teachers. I remember when they started doing crossword puzzles. They're both almost exactly the same age, and they started when they were 7, and started doing crossword puzzles. And what they do is it's kind of cute. They do the crossword puzzles in pen. Only do crossword puzzles in pen when you are a real hotshot and don't have to be scribbling stuff out. So they'd be scribbling stuff out. They'd still get it wrong. Then they give the crossword puzzles to me to finish up. And so I'd have to be, I'd always use pencil because I'm not really that good at crossword puzzles. I'm probably better at German crossword puzzles. The Schwedenrätsels. Yeah, that's actually Swedish riddles. Than I am at English stuff. So I can kind of do cryptic crosswords in German. Maybe almost as well as the ones in English. I'm not good at cryptic crossword stuff. That's the way it goes. I just don't have the time to be, there are different tricks of the trade and so on and so forth. But where was I going with that? Yeah, my parents were, like when they hit about 80 was about the time when I kind of gave up doing crossword puzzles after them. Why? They got almost all of them. In those 10 years where people think, oh, I'm just dying on the vine, like they actually improved. No, those crossword puzzles kind found in the Lethbridge Herald, they're not the ones that are found in the Calgary Sun, which are for real dolts, okay? The Lethbridge Herald ones are pretty good. They're not like what you'd find in the Globe and Mail or whatever. But they had learned. They'd learned to do those things. When I first started out, it was amazing how many corrections I had to make with pencil and stuff like that. That's the way it goes. But I'd fill them up, and eventually I just gave up on it because they might miss one or two things, or they might get them all. Eventually they didn't even have to do much scribbling, like crossing out with the pens. Unless you've got something functionally wrong, some sort of physiological problem with your brain, like Alzheimer's or whatever, you should be learning as long, are you listening now? As long as you live. As long as you live, you should be learning. You might find that that certain words will slip out of use, or you might find particularly that your access for words slows down. But you should still be picking more stuff out. If you aren't, you're just not doing the job with whatever, whoever, whatever, nature or whatever gave you. And you have a responsibility to, if not to others, at least to yourself, to try and cultivate what you've got in terms of brains. So here, this is kind of what I figured would be a dog's breakfast of a documentary, a doc's breakfast. It's kind of like 3 generations of guitar heroes and stuff like that. Some of them might have thought, I'm pretty sure that Edge, when he was a punker, and yes, he was into punk, that was their first incarnation of U2, was punk stuff. And they show some punk stuff, some of their stuff. It's kind of embarrassing, really, but there you go. Punk's kind of embarrassing. And the person that they probably hated the most was Jimmy Page. They hated 70s rock, but they didn't realize. And you can kind of see, I almost see that there's a little bit of, Edge maybe still looks down on Jimmy Page. Edge, dude, this guy should be your god, especially seeing that you came through punk. When I was a kid, the ultimate in punk, the people who kind of invented it were called the Kinks. The Kinks, Ray and Dave Davies, 2 brothers. And then Mick Avery, I think, was the drummer. And they kind of, bassist, they kind of ran through a succession of them. But I always used to wonder, I never liked the songs that much. You Really Got Me, or All Day and All of the Night. A few other things. I wondered why the guitars after that sounded so